Marcus woke to the kind of alarm that could have only been invented by someone who hated sleep but loved chaos. The lights above him flickered in a rhythm that almost seemed like Morse code for "you're completely screwed." He sat up, squinting at the walls, which were sleek and metallic, with panels that hummed faintly as if they were alive. He pinched himself. Nope, not dreaming. Somewhere in the universe, someone had decided it was a brilliant idea to beam a human commando, him, of all people, onto a planet he couldn't pronounce and didn't understand. He rubbed his face and muttered, "Great, Earth's best-kept secret, I suck at alien diplomacy." Before he could even find his boots, a soft chime announced his first visitor. The door slid open with a hiss, and there she was. The alien queen, Lyrana. He didn't know what he expected: tentacles, glowing eyes, maybe something that screamed galactic royalty, but she looked human enough to make him question if he'd somehow wandered into an interplanetary cosplay convention. Her skin was a delicate shade of moonlight beige, her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes glimmered with intelligence that practically screamed, "Don't mess with me." Then there were the ears, long, pointed, delicate, and twitching with every tiny expression. Marcus thought they looked like they belonged in a sophisticated elf opera, which made the whole situation feel surreal. She looked at him with an intensity that could freeze lava. "You're late," she said, her voice melodic but carrying the kind of authority that made you want to salute while apologizing profusely. Marcus scrambled for words, and none of them were suitable. "Morning." He offered, realizing too late that in space diplomacy, morning is apparently not an acceptable greeting. Lyrana's ears twitched. He prayed it wasn't a twitch of fury. "You have been summoned to protect me," she continued, ignoring his incompetence. "And yet you stand there blinking as if you were a common garden pest." Marcus swallowed. "Look, I'm good at running, shooting things, breaking stuff, maybe not in a garden, but still." He tried to gesture heroically and nearly knocked over a floating console. The console beeped indignantly. Lyrana's twitching ears slowed, and for a split second he thought she might actually be impressed by his clumsiness. She tilted her head. "We do not have time for incompetence." "I totally get that," Marcus said, nodding earnestly, "which is why I didn't bring my incompetence. Left it in my other pants." He paused, realizing that was probably the wrong kind of joke. She raised an eyebrow, and he mentally scored himself, somewhere between fascinating alien curiosity and "please don't vaporize me." The palace was enormous, though Marcus had only glimpsed it through the sliding doors that opened into a vast chamber with reflective floors and hovering platforms. The ceilings stretched so high that he could swear stars had been captured in crystal panels. The air hummed with a pleasant energy that made him feel slightly buzzed, and every so often the floor would glow beneath his feet in shifting patterns, probably a security measure. Or maybe it was for decoration. He hoped it was decoration because he really didn't want to trigger an interstellar death sentence over a clumsy step. Lyrana began walking, her stride elegant, almost hypnotic, and Marcus followed, trying not to trip over his own boots. The palace was alive in ways he couldn't immediately describe. Panels opened, revealing holographic guides, and small drones zipped past, waving polite mechanical appendages as if to say, "Welcome, human, please don't ruin everything." Marcus saluted one, and it beeped in a tone that could only be interpreted as "we're doomed." "You are not prepared for what is coming," Lyrana said, her ears flicking in irritation or amusement, Marcus couldn't tell. "The Krelvins approach, their fleets are vast, their weapons devastating. Our sensors have detected spies in our midst." Marcus paused. "Wait, spies like palace spies? Oh no, this is like those escape room movies." "I hate escape room movies." Lyrana's lips quirked, almost a smile, which made her ears twitch in a pattern Marcus decided meant, "You're irritating but not entirely useless." "They will attempt to remove me," she said. "You are my only chance, and yet," she paused dramatically, "you are merely a human." Marcus gave a dramatic shrug. "Merely, yes, but humans invented duct tape and nachos, you're welcome." He winced, realizing he had just mixed humor with diplomacy, a potentially deadly cocktail. Lyrana blinked slowly, considering, her long ears twitching in that rhythmic way again. "Observe," she said suddenly, waving a hand. The walls of the chamber shifted, revealing a massive display of alien blueprints. They floated in midair, spinning slowly. Ships, weapons, entire fleets. Marcus's brain buzzed. He tried to focus, but his eyes kept wandering to a hologram labeled Krelvin spy drones, each model slightly smaller than a cat but presumably more deadly. They're fast, they're clever. And they will exploit any weakness, Lyrana continued. You must think beyond human limits, you must act unpredictably. Marcus swallowed. Beyond human limits, got it. Does that include thinking upside down while juggling laser grenades, asking for a friend? Lyrana's ears twitched, and for a moment Marcus thought he had overstepped, but then she let out a short, musical laugh. Not a condescending one, but genuine. Unpredictability may be your greatest strength. He took a deep breath. Right, I'm unpredictably ready, or at least I'm about to be, mostly ready, maybe. He paused, realizing he might have undermined his own credibility. She didn't comment. Instead, she led him down a series of corridors that twisted like the inside of a crystal labyrinth. The walls shifted in subtle ways, revealing weapons stores, strategic maps, and occasionally a cat-sized drone that chirped encouragement at him. And if I fail? He asked, trying to sound serious, though his voice quivered slightly. You will not, she said, her voice calm but firm. Even if you believe you are a simple commando, you carry the potential to change the fate of an entire species. Marcus blinked. That's a lot of pressure. I was just going to get coffee this morning. You will learn quickly, Lyrana said, with a hint of amusement in her voice. Your human quirks may become your greatest weapon. He smirked. Quirks. My mother called them personality defects. As they entered the training arena, a vast chamber filled with holographic opponents, shifting gravity fields, and a few bewildered palace guards, Marcus realized just how absurd this all was. Here he was, an Earth soldier, tasked with protecting an alien queen in a palace that defied physics, facing enemies that made Terminator models look like toys. He adjusted his gloves, flexed his fingers, and muttered, "Well, here goes nothing." And somewhere deep in the chambers of Vyrlia, the queen's ears twitched again, in a pattern that might have meant hope or amusement, or that she simply wanted him to trip and entertain her. Marcus grinned. Whatever the case, he was in. This was no ordinary mission, and he had a feeling that surviving it would require a mix of luck, improvisation, and a ridiculously healthy sense of humor. Marcus had survived his first night in the palace without accidentally starting an interstellar incident, which he considered a personal victory. Breakfast was a confusing mix of glowing fruits, protein gels, and something that smelled suspiciously like fried circuits. He poked at it with a utensil that hovered in midair and muttered, "I miss pancakes." Lyrana, sitting across from him with a regal poise that made the gravity of her role unavoidable, watched his struggle with a quiet amusement. Her long ears twitched in perfect synchrony with every bite he failed to lift. Marcus realized quickly that she found his human clumsiness endlessly entertaining, which was better than terrifying. "You have not eaten," she said, her voice smooth but firm. "Energy is vital." "I'm absorbing the vibe," Marcus said. "Very nutritious." He pretended to chew a bit more, only to drop the glowing fruit onto the table. It rolled across the surface like a tiny comet. Lyrana's ears flicked once, which Marcus decided meant, "You are impossible," and he grinned, daring to feel a little braver. After breakfast, they moved into the corridors for what Lyrana called strategic immersion. Marcus called it wandering around in a palace that probably weighs more than my entire planet. Holographic walls flashed maps of the city, markers blinking in red where Krelvin activity was suspected. "It's a palace," Marcus said, pointing at a blinking red dot. "Not a video game, right?" Lyrana's ears twitched rhythmically. "Your humor may be your most useful skill," she said. Marcus was pretty sure she was partially mocking him, but he was okay with that. Their first real test came quickly. One of the palace corridors erupted with alarms as a tiny Krelvin spy drone zipped through the air, invisibly fast. Marcus had trained for ambushes on Earth, but dodging something that moved like it had memorized every possible escape trajectory was novel. He dove sideways, flailing his limbs in a manner he would later call heroically ungraceful, and somehow managed to smush the drone under the heel of his boot. It squelched dramatically, and Marcus held it up triumphantly. "Victory," he declared. Lyrana's ears twitched in what could only be a sarcastic applause. "You are lucky," she said, voice calm, "but luck will not always save you." Marcus saluted. "Copy that, more luck coming right up." They moved into the palace gardens, a sprawling arena of alien flora designed to train and confound intruders. Some plants hummed, others shifted their shapes unpredictably. Marcus stepped carefully, noting that one bush tried to grab him. He yelped and jumped back, almost colliding with a hover platform carrying a pair of armed Virelian guards. Lyrana's ears twitched with what he suspected was suppressed laughter. "The gardens are sentient," she said, "and not fond of humans." Marcus frowned. "Great, I've always wanted to be personally disliked by a plant species. Bucket list check." While he navigated the hostile greenery, Lyrana moved effortlessly beside him, her long ears twitching like antennas detecting danger before it arrived. Marcus tried to mimic her grace and failed spectacularly, tripping over a root that wasn't there a moment ago and landing face first in a luminous moss patch. He scrambled upright, covered in glowing green fuzz, and offered a crooked salute. "Reporting for duty," he said, his voice muffled. The queen's ears twitched again. Marcus decided that meant approval. They practiced evasion and combat through the day, the palace presenting simulations of every type of threat imaginable. Krelvan boarding parties, sabotage attempts, infiltrating spies disguised as servants. Marcus quickly learned that improvisation was his greatest asset. He rigged a holographic decoy of himself that ran in one corridor while he ducked into another, only to find that the decoy accidentally triggered a holographic trap, turning the hall into a swirling rainbow of dancing avatars of the palace staff. Lyrana's reaction was a mixture of horror and delight, her ears twitching in rhythm to the chaotic display. "Impressive," she said finally, if not exactly precise. Marcus bowed. "Precision is overrated, style points matter." As the evening approached, intelligence reports confirmed the presence of traitors in the court. Marcus wasn't sure if he should feel heroic or terrified, but he went with a mix of both. He and Lyrana huddled in the strategy room, studying surveillance and holograms. Marcus noticed a subtle anomaly. One of the palace advisors was avoiding certain areas, their holographic signature flickering just slightly off-key. "I think we found our mole," Marcus said, grinning. "Or maybe they just need better Wi-Fi, either way suspicious." Lyrana's ears twitched sharply. "You see more than I expected, human. Your insight is unconventional." "Thank you," Marcus said. "I pride myself on being unconventional. It's kind of my thing, part of my charm." They plotted a trap, using holographic projections and Lyrana's guards. Marcus suggested adding a few comedic touches to the trap decoys that tripped on their own holographic shoelaces, or a sudden sneeze effect that would distract the intruder. Lyrana raised an eyebrow. "You intend to mock them while capturing them?" "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "Mocking is tactical and morale-boosting, trust me on this." The trap was set. That night the mole, confident and overconfident, fell right into the holographic maze. Marcus hid behind a column, biting back laughter as the hapless spy ran into bouncing holographic cats, phantom banana peels, and a floating image of Marcus doing a ridiculous victory dance. By the time the guards caught him, Marcus couldn't stop chuckling. Lyrana's ears twitched in what he took to be reluctant approval. "You have strange methods," she said, carefully choosing words. "But they work." Marcus wiped a tear of laughter from his eye. "Strange is my specialty. If humans have any weakness, it's being unpredictable and apparently hilarious." The night ended with the two of them surveying the city from a high balcony, lights of the capital glowing like constellations. Marcus nudged her gently. "Not bad for a Monday," he said. Lyrana's ears flicked in a way that might have been amusement. "Monday in Virelia is always challenging," she said. Marcus grinned. Challenge accepted. As the city slept, he realized the truth. He might have been just a human, but in this world of alien sophistication and deadly enemies, his quirks, his humor, his blunders, his sheer unpredictability were not weaknesses. They were weapons, and as the first stars rose in the alien sky, Marcus felt ready to wield them. The first signs came as ripples in the sky, Krelvan warships tearing through the upper atmosphere, casting shadows over the city like dark, moving fortresses. Marcus stared at the view from the palace balcony, his hands gripping the railing so tightly he left fingerprints in the metal. Lyrana stood beside him, her long ears tilted forward, picking up every vibration, every faint hum in the air that Marcus couldn't sense. "They've arrived," she said, "and they are worse than anything our intelligence predicted." Marcus gave a slow nod, his expression grim but his voice light. Well, at least they remembered to RSVP, always a plus. Lyrana's ears twitched, a subtle flick that Marcus interpreted as amusement mixed with warning. He had learned over the past days that those ears told everything, her mood, her suspicions, even when she was about to kill someone. That knowledge was power. The palace descended into controlled chaos. Virelian defenders scrambled to their stations, drones zipped between corridors, and holographic shields flared to life, projecting walls of shimmering energy around strategic points. Marcus, in the middle of it all, found himself grinning. This was it, the big showdown, and in his own human way, he felt ready. He ran through the corridors, dodging guards and technicians with an agility that came from pure instinct. "Step aside, human coming through," he shouted, narrowly avoiding a floating turret that beeped indignantly. In the training arena earlier that week, he had practiced evasion and combat in simulations. None of them had prepared him for this, but improvisation had become second nature. He dove behind a pillar, swung around a hovering console, and emerged with a grin. Still got it. Lyrana joined him on a raised walkway, her long ears catching every sound from the fleet above. She gestured sharply, and a squad of energy drones zipped forward, intercepting incoming Krelvan missiles with precise bursts. "Marcus, focus on the palace defenses. Use the strategy room holograms as your guide." Marcus saluted in mock formality. "Yes, your majesty, prepare to be dazzled by human ingenuity and mild clumsiness." He activated a series of holographic decoys he had rigged over the past days, each projecting himself in absurd poses. One doing a backflip, another waving a mock flag, another accidentally tripping over a floating robot. The Krelvans, though deadly serious, were momentarily thrown into confusion, their targeting systems swerving to follow phantom Marcus figures. One particularly audacious drone collided with another, spinning off course and erupting into sparks. Marcus chuckled. "See, humor is tactical." From above, the Krelvan flagship descended, a monstrous vessel shaped like a jagged crown, engines blazing like molten metal. Lyrana's fleet engaged, firing beams of concentrated energy that streaked across the sky, while Marcus orchestrated chaos below. He rigged gravitational pulses in the streets that sent Krelvan assault units tumbling helplessly into each other. He could hear Lyrana's voice over comms. "Your improvisation is unconventional." Marcus grinned. "I prefer the term revolutionary." The battle was intense, but Marcus had learned to rely on more than luck. He anticipated Krelvan maneuvers, used the palace's architecture as traps, and even managed to sneak behind a strike team disguised as one of their decoy holograms. One squadron of Krelvans tried to breach the central chamber where Lyrana had positioned herself, and Marcus stepped into their path, tripping over a decorative panel in the process but somehow blocking their advance. "Human shield." "Optional comedy?" he called out. Lyrana activated a concentrated energy pulse, taking advantage of the temporary disarray Marcus had created. Together, they synchronized a series of attacks that dismantled the Krelvan boarding parties with efficiency and a touch of absurdity. Drones whirled around enemies, holographic duplicates tripped them into traps, and Marcus even managed a heroic kick that sent a Krelvan into a fountain of glowing liquid where it sputtered helplessly. Lyrana's ears twitched in rhythm with the chaos, a mixture of delight and precision, her long form commanding and serene even as sparks and explosions danced around them. At one critical moment, a Krelvan operative bypassed the main defenses and lunged toward Lyrana, energy blade flashing. Marcus dove in, slipping on a patch of alien moss and executing what could only be described as a spectacular accidental somersault, landing directly between the queen and the attacker. He flailed his arms, knocked the Krelvan off balance, and somehow, by sheer luck and gravity, sent the operative flying into the containment grid. He rolled to his feet, face covered in moss and glittering residue, and gave a thumbs up. All in a day's work. The Krelvans, seeing their assault falter under a combination of Lyrana's strategy and Marcus's improbable heroics, began retreating, their ships pulling back into the atmosphere, engines sputtering as Marcus's last improvisations sent localized EMP bursts through the enemy fleet. The city had survived, the palace was intact, and Marcus, covered in alien moss and somewhat singed but exhilarated, finally allowed himself a breath of relief. Lyrana approached him, her long ears flicking thoughtfully. You were unpredictable human, beyond what we could have expected. Your methods, though unorthodox, saved us. Marcus shrugged, trying to appear modest while secretly basking in the praise. What can I say? Humans are like that. Also, duct tape, don't forget duct tape. She allowed a small smile. Her ears flicked in a way that made Marcus realize he had earned her genuine amusement, a rare honor among the Virelians. We owe you everything, Marcus, she said. Not just my life, but the lives of my people. You are no longer merely a commando soldier. You are a protector of Virelia. Marcus tried to bow, but tripped on a slightly uneven floor panel. Lyrana's ears twitched again, and he decided this was probably the highest compliment she could give him. I'll take it, he said, brushing himself off. In the following days, the palace adjusted to a semblance of